Welcome to the 138th episode of the Supernatural Occurrence Studies podcast.
So goddamn paranormal.
My name is Jason Knight, host of the show, and with me, as always, is
The voice inside your head. Oscar Spector, sorry.
producer extraordinaire and podcast co-host. Listeners, if you'd like to skip our wonderful intros, go to the show notes. There'll be a timestamp there waiting for you to get you right to the topic. Mm-hmm. Oscar, how have things been going since the last Nostradamus episode 137?
You know, it's funny. It feels like a lifetime ago. For some reason, the space between the last, our Nostradamus part 1 and this recording of part 2, which is under the gun, it's supposed to be released like tonight. It feels like a long time has passed. I don't know why. I don't know if you feel the same way, but it feels like a lot's happened in those 2 weeks. Even though it hasn't, it just feels like a lot of time has passed.
It's funny you mentioned that. I checked, because, I have all the release dates in Google Calendar, and I get updates when we should record, when we should release. Mm-hmm. And I went and double checked that Google Calendar because it kind of felt the same to me as well. I'm like, oh my God, am I missing something? Should this have been last week?
Right.
I don't know why.
Right. I was like, wait, did we do this? No, we haven't done it yet. It's not due yet. I'm double checking, and my brain's not telling me the truth, But that's besides the point. So something strange did happen recently that I want to tell you guys, everyone out there. It's strange and unusual. Just like Winona Ryder. It involves a customer at Starbucks, right? I work at Starbucks, blah, blah, blah. There's this lady. I say lady because I always say lady when someone's older than me, She's not much older, but she's like at least 10 years older. So let's say in her 40s, late 40s, maybe even early 50s. Lady, American, white, I think, maybe half European. I'm just giving details. I don't know why. Anyway, she comes in relatively every day or every other day. She's a regular, and she always gets the same drink. Don't ask me what the drink is. I completely forgot. I only say that because sometimes I remember only customers by their drink, and it's really, really weird because I would remember if I was at work, but I don't remember right now. That's how it works with life. Like, unless you're in the place, you don't remember. It's like a combination for a lock or something. And if you're there, you can remember, but anywhere else in the world, you will forget the lock combination. Anyway, so she came in one day, and, I don't always shoot the shit with everyone, but eventually, if they're a regular, I'll eventually get to them. At some point, I will be gregarious enough or curious enough to say like, oh, how's it going? I haven't seen you in a few days, or I'll say something like that, get them going to actually say something, be customer funny or friendly. And I asked her that, and she said something. Oh, no. She said like, oh yeah, no, I'm doing great. Like, she's a little stressed out from work. I'm like, okay, yeah, I know. That's why you're here. I get it. Refueling. And then I said like, it's funny that you're here twice today. And she's like, no. I'm like, what do you mean no? And like, this is like 6 p.m. On a weekday. And I was like, yeah, you came here earlier. I saw you. I'm like, you got something very similar. I forgot what you get, but I know you're getting decaf now because it's late, but like, you got something earlier. She's like, no, I only come to Starbucks once a day. And then she started getting curious, and I was like, really? Are you sure you didn't come? And you're like all caffeinated and weird, and you just don't remember? Because a lot of people, come in half awake or whatever. And she was like, no, this is all very like light conversation. We're not taking it super seriously. But she did she double checked. She made her order. It is not busy, so she can talk to me. It's not like I have a line of people. So like, she takes advantage, and she's like, when did you see me last? Or when did you see the person or that you thought was me? And I was like, I don't know, like 4 hours ago. And she'd be like, okay, has this happened before? I'm like, what do you mean? Have I ever come in twice? I'm like, yeah. I've seen you twice before. I'm like, no, I only come to Starbucks once a day for budget reasons. I don't like indulge myself too much in it. I only come once a day, 4 years now. And she's like, so she then she asked me several questions. I'm like, are you? Because I was like, are you sure? I'm positive I've seen you before. It could be my mistake, by the way, guys. someone that looks very much like her. Maybe I'm just getting it wrong, but like she asked me more questions because she had something on her end about it. And then that's after a few questions, and I couldn't really give her answers. Like, I don't know exactly what time. I don't know exactly which days because I don't remember that. Who remembers that, right? But I was like, yeah, pretty often, like at least 3-4 times a week. I notice it, but like I'm not paying attention either. And she's like, that is so fucking fascinating. She's like, this has happened to me before. There are people who, there's another me in Niles or something. And she would just say it like, she said it like that. Like, there's gotta be like another me in Niles. I'm like, really? Like a twin? I'm like, do you have siblings? Like, no, I do not have a twin, but like maybe there is a twin and I don't know about it. And I started making jokes like, oh shit, you got separated at birth. There's a whole dramatic thing. I just made jokes about it. But she was like, but she wasn't like saying that she wasn't joking. She was telling me like, yeah, there really is someone else out there. It's happened before in other places, in other stores, in other like malls or whatever, people with banks and things like that. It's happened before, even in a restaurant once. She didn't tell me all the details, but she would tell me that people thought they saw me either earlier that week when I wasn't there or earlier that day when I wasn't there.
This is a topic. The doppelganger.
Doppelganger theory, right?
That is amazing. So she was buying into it.
Like, she brought it up to me. I didn't, honestly, I really thought before she had mentioned that I was just mistaking her for someone else, being a little, I don't know, because I see so many people, a lot, some of them do look similar. I mean, not really that similar, enough for me to confuse them like that, but maybe it's all possible. So that's what I thought. And then, but no, she brought it up in a way like, no, this happens to me before. I'm like, shit. I'm like, what are the chances that if the doppelganger theory, whatever it may look like to a lot of people out there, if it's true, what are the chances that they both live in the same town?
Especially Niles, Illinois. It's not a big town.
No, it's not. And nor is it like particularly. No, yeah, it's not a big town. It's like a little ghetto now. And yeah, it's nothing much going on.
That's fascinating. I could tell you from personal experience, I think I have a doppelganger as well, but it's to the Midwest, not specific to a small town like Niles.
Got it.
For pretty much my entire adult life, I could run into a stranger that I've never met before, social setting, or someone I'm just getting to know, or even at work when I was traveling for work. Mm-hmm. People would say, God, have you worked in this place before? Or are you related to this person? Or did you hang out over here? And it was always, no. They're like, I've met you in the past. I've met you before. We've interacted. Your face, your look, your style, your mannerisms, the way you talk, even down to my facial hair. I've had facial hair for God, I don't even know how long.
I mean, since I've
20 years. Yeah. Everything. And I get it all the time to where I just started believing there's another Jason out there running around interacting with people. And good thing he's not an asshole. He's apparently a great guy,
Well, you got lucky there.
But it's the creepiest thing.
Yeah.
I love the topic idea.
Yeah, I don't know if this is like an actual topic that I'm actually stumbling into. I wouldn't know how to start research, how to tackle that one, but like obviously we'll start with our personal stories. I don't have one in this case. I've always thought in the back of my mind, sometimes I play along with it in a daydream fantasy, that the reason people I'm not very much, like, I'm not engaging online, but the rare times that I do try, well, not the rare times, but the times I do it consecutively before I stop trying again, for some reason, my online persona has always been very like lax. I'm always better in person.
Yes.
And it's always been very lax and very weird. And I often think that I used to think that that there's another me out there online a lot that's maybe getting people pissed off, and that's what turns them off about me. Like they come in like thinking like, oh, I've seen this guy before. He's a fucking dick. I'm like, I never do anything. Maybe we have the same name and we have the same maybe like photo in the profile, or we have same isms, right? Except that my isms are just to be funny for funny's sake, whether maybe this asshole is using it to be racist. I don't know what he's doing. And I would often think that, but that doesn't mean it's true. It's nowhere near like as true as what you're saying right now about your doppelganger and this lady was saying at Starbucks about hers.
Amazing.
I never had it personally like that. So interesting stuff.
Very interesting. And I also think it crosses into alternate realities, yourself
Right.
just in a different time, dimension, reality, whatever you want to call it. I love it. Great story. It actually gave me the goosebumps. Wow. I don't have anything that cool that's happened over the last 2 weeks.
I mean, that was just like 10 minutes, right, of one part of the day.
Yeah.
But the rest is pretty nonsense. I mean, pretty much arbitrary nonsense. But anything else? But it doesn't have to be weird.
Yeah, no. Well, like you said, we're doing this under the gun. So we're recording this during the day. It's like 12:30 right now, and during the day on Sunday.
So glad you say it that way.
It's the house is very active at this time. Not with ghosts, with kids, right? Running in and out of the house.
Ghosts.
Worse than absolutely. Yeah. We're running in and out of the house every time doors open. The alarm beeps and doors slamming, kids yelling. So I am sequestered up on the second floor in our master bedroom, jammed into my wife's side of the closet.
Yeah, you are.
Sandwiched between her clothes. Matter of fact, I've never seen this dress before.
Funny. Mental note, she's going to wear that tomorrow.
Right. Oh, dude, if she does, that's going to be some weird shit.
Oh, nice.
So I'm curious how the sounds are going to come out on this episode, because I'm in a completely different recording space. So we'll see. Hopefully it comes out well.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. I think we sound well now, but we never know until we actually hear it back.
Right.
Sometimes or oftentimes.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's cool. I'm glad you like the story, and I'm glad that you're in a closet. And in general, cramped.
Insert the jokes here. Go ahead.
Insert all jokes. Sorry. Yeah.
But yeah, besides that, I had some really big news come to me at work this past week on Tuesday, the day after Memorial Day. It is going to elevate my status within the company, if I could pull it off, just immensely, and hopefully title and pay follows that. But that was completely out of the blue. It's incredibly flattering. It's high profile, big money. Really excited about it. So that happened as well. And I'm staying vague because people at my work do listen to this, and it hasn't been announced to the company yet. So that happened.
Nice.
Yeah.
I know about that one. Yes. That's very good. Good luck, man.
Thank you.
You've always been good at this stuff.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, besides that, I think we should get to contact.
The easiest way to contact.
Oh, no, not that. I meant the movie with Jodie Foster. I know. I see how you made that mistake. I'm sorry about that.
It was an easy mistake.
We should talk about Gary Busey. Oh, no, Jake Busey and Contact. I think that's all we should.
Oh, he was the crazy preacher.
Yeah, he's always crazy. He's always a crazy something. He's a crazy serial killer, crazy shotgun guy, crazy nurse or orderly. That's all one movie, actually.
The Busey family teeth is just...
It's unreal. I mean, the only thing that competes with them is a horse.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. So the easiest way to contact the Supernatural Occurrence Studies podcast is by visiting our website, chicagoghostpodcast.com. From chicagoghostpodcast.com, you can get to all of our social accounts, including Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, Patreon. And in case you didn't know, for just $5 a month, you could get access to exclusive Patreon-only content. Go to the show notes of this episode, click on the Patreon link. It'll take you right to us, or visit patreon.com/Supernatural Occurrence Studies podcast and pledge your support for your favorite show. Besides the website, you could also call or text us, Chicago area code 872-529-0767. That's Chicago area code 872-529-0767. Leave us a message, send us a text. We'll read them and play them on the show. I actually have a voicemail in queue that I haven't had time to really insert into an episode yet, but that's coming. Don't worry, listener, you know who you are. How did I do?
Yeah, well, I'm still alive. You did good.
There you go.
I didn't know we had a voicemail either. by the way.
We do. It's attached to this number I mentioned. It's crazy.
If you say so. I mean, all right. It's all fake, guys. It's all fucking fake.
Don't fall for the hype.
Don't.
Oscar,
Maybe we
yes.
should take that break. Yeah.
I think we should break. Yes.
Let's do it.
Listeners, welcome back to the show. Well, the lights are not turned down low. Oscar's drink is flowing at 12 o'clock in the afternoon.
Hey.
The ceremonial candle is not lit. Let's start this show. So, Oscar, let's remember, this is a part 2 to Nostradamus. This is the second and final part to Nostradamus, right? In the last episode 137, Nostradamus Part 1, we introduced our listeners to this legendary seer or prophet, Michel de Nostradamus, or just Nostradamus, as he's popularly known, right? We talked about his background, his lineage, his education, his work as a physician and apothecary, his affinity for astrology, and that he's best known for a book he published in 1555 called Les Prophéties, a collection of 942 predictions that he made, which were written in this poetic quatrain form, right?
Right.
We also mentioned that it is believed that upwards of 2/3 of Nostradamus's 942 predictions have come true. And if that is in fact the case, if that's real, those numbers are real, that would make Nostradamus the single most accurate prophet in history, having 628 of his predictions coming to fruition. Which also means that we have yet to experience the remaining 1/3 of Nostradamus's predictions, which is a terrifying thought, as most of Nostradamus's predictions foretell terrible future calamity, death, and destruction.
Unrest.
Yes. Earning Nostradamus the title, the Prophet of Doom. We also dove into a number of Nostradamus's famous predictions, from supervolcanoes destroying the planet, terrible weather events like Hurricane Katrina, asteroids falling from the sky and wiping out Earth, global warming, famine, and even the rise of 3 antichrists, 2 that have already come, Napoleon and Hitler, and 1 still to come, possibly named Mabus. So listeners, if you haven't already, pause this episode, go back and listen to the previous show. And now, the continuation of Nostradamus.
We should have done a previously on the supernatural occurrence studies.
Ooh, that would be fun.
You know, and then gone into like, oh my God, it's too late now because it's due today. But like
literally today.
It's literally done due today. I'm gonna have to do it tonight after work. I would just can imagine like one of us saying previously on the SOS, and then we get into like little snippets of like the things we covered in the last episode.
Dude,
like really
love
quick,
it.
like one of those TV things, you know, and then gotten into and now the conclusion, right, or part 2.
Yes.
You know.
Oh God, yes.
So that now just came up to me now. Sorry, too late.
You never know when genius is going to strike.
You never know, right?
Okay, so obviously in this episode we're going to just jump into the predictions, to the quatrains. Okay, and I've chosen a number of very popular ones. The first of which is Nostradamus's predictions about Donald Trump's presidency. I figure let's just rip off the Band-Aid right from the get-go and talk about this very polarizing topic, right? We're not political on this show. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole, but that's where I wanted to start. Now, I had something really interesting happen while I was researching the Donald Trump prophecy, okay? I knew it was out there. I knew it existed. I was able to locate the quatrain that refers to possible Donald Trump. But then I fell into a problem. It didn't make sense, complete sense to me. how this translated to Donald Trump. Some of it did, but some of it I had to go out and search and research Donald Trump, his presidency, his foreign relations, specifically with Turkey in this case, in this quatrain's case, some of his policy. And I was able to make the quatrain fit with what I found. And I think it makes sense. You guys let me know. Oscar, let me know. But I think this is the crux of the problem with Nostradamus. Now, I'm not saying he's real. I'm not saying he's fake. His predictions anyway. Of course, he's a real person. But this is the problem people have. You could make his predictions fit with any future event from the date he wrote, right?
Interesting.
And I was able to do this with Donald Trump. So
okay, I mean, I'm curious now to see how it fits. Yes, and then I'll say more. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the quatrain that people claim referred to Donald Trump's presidency is Century 1, Quatrain 40. And here's what that says. Quote, "The false trumpet concealing madness will cause Byzantium to change its laws. From Egypt, there will go forth a man who wants the edict withdrawn, changing money and standards." End quote. Now, people interpret this quatrain as Nostradamus predicting the Donald Trump presidency, like I said. So let's take a closer look at this quatrain. Nostradamus's use of the phrase false trumpet is an obvious reference to Donald Trump, as his name is right there. Trumpet, Trump, right? Now, the phrase false trumpet can also have a double meaning. Think of false speaker or someone who loudly spews falsities. Do you think in today's world political climate that there are people out there who believe that Donald Trump, our 45th president, was a false speaker or a man that loudly spewed lies to the world?
Yeah.
Of course, right? There are people out there who think that, probably more so during the Trump presidency than in any other presidency in history, in fact. Now, the way this next part of the quatrain is interpreted is interesting. The phrase concealing madness. If false trumpet refers to Donald Trump and his fondness for spewing lies, then the phrase concealing madness reinforces the idea that Nostradamus was in fact talking about Donald Trump in this quatrain. According to some Nostradamus believers, concealing madness refers to a theory that was circulating in the media back in 2019. So on Trump's campaign train for this first presidential election, which said that Donald Trump was hiding from the world or concealing the fact that he was suffering from some form of dementia. And some of you may remember this, that at the time there were serious accusations flying around that Trump was in fact suffering from early onset dementia, if not full-blown dementia, because he had this tendency to mix or forget and replace words with nonsensical ones, slur his speech. He'd fail to recognize old friends. He'd forget places and dates and confuse people's names during his speeches. The belief that Donald Trump had dementia was so strong that in 2018, 70 healthcare and mental health professionals wrote a letter to Dr. Ronnie Jackson, Donald Trump's chief physician, begging him to administer a cognitive ability test to Trump because they believed Trump was suffering from some neurological illness.
Wow.
Yes. Now, in the letter, a powerful editorial authored by former President Jimmy Carter in 1994 in the Journal of the American Medical Association was used to drive the point home that Trump needed to be tested. Carter's editorial explained how the country is in continuing danger from the possibility that a president could become mentally disabled, particularly by a neurological illness. Now, in response, Dr. Jackson did administer to Trump what's called the Montreal Cognitive Assessment, a screening tool for dementia, and Trump passed. But this 10-minute screening test where Trump had to identify a camel, draw a clock, and repeat 3 numbers backwards only ruled out full-blown dementia. Now, it's pretty clear Trump didn't have full-blown dementia based on this test, but was Trump and his camp hiding from the world some other neurological illness, some other concealed madness, to quote the quatrain, like maybe early onset dementia? That test didn't screen for that. Now, of course, we're not saying that people with neurological disorders are mad, to use the quatrain, and we're not arguing whether or not there was anything wrong with Trump at all, or if he was a liar or not. It's not that kind of podcast. But when interpreting the quatrain, these things do kind of fit. Now, there's another part of this quatrain that we need to take a look at. The part that talks about the false trumpet making Byzantium change its laws. If the false trumpet, aka Donald Trump, was to make Byzantium change its laws, then today Byzantium would equal Istanbul, because historically Byzantium became Constantinople, and then Constantinople became Istanbul, Turkey, right? Which means Trump would have to be president in order to force Istanbul to change its laws.
Right.
And now, again, this could be really interesting if this quatrain is indeed about Trump. There's a long history that exists between Donald Trump and Turkey's president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan.
Nice.
Not to mention Trump's business dealings in Turkey. He has 2 multi-billion-dollar Trump towers in Istanbul. In an article published by the Center for American Progress, it was explained that the bilateral relationship between President Trump and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan became so personalized at the leadership level that it's been difficult to determine where U.S. or Turkish government policy stops and the personal preferences of the Erdogan and Trump families begin.
Huh. Wow.
Yes.
That's a little crazy. Yeah.
It was said that President Erdogan could upend U.S. policy in Turkey with one phone call to the Trump White House. Trump was pretty lax on Turkey's commitment to democracy and human rights. Trump was lax on Turkey's closeness with Russia. Turkey even buying from Russia an S-400 air defense system, a surface-to-air missile system, which is the most advanced air defense system in the world, capable of bringing down F-35 Lightning II stealth fighter jets. Trump basically turned a blind eye to this purchase. Now, almost certainly, President Biden will be forced to close the gap on the relationship Trump once had with Turkey. And there's no doubt that policies with Turkey will change during Biden's presidency. So was Nostradamus right? In a roundabout way, the trumpets, or Trump's, relaxed, chummy relationship with Turkey will be responsible for forcing our new president to take action, which will cause Byzantium, or Turkey, to, quote, change its laws. And here, were you going to say something? Sorry.
No.
Okay. Now here's another quatrain, Century 1, Quatrain 12, which I discovered while researching the quatrains, ones that I haven't seen anyone talk about yet, which could also apply to Donald Trump's presidency. And let me know if you think this might apply to Trump.
All right.
This is the quatrain, quote, "There will soon be talk of a treacherous man who rules a short time, quickly raised from low to high estate. He will suddenly turn disloyal and volatile. This man will govern Verona," end quote.
Wow. Yeah, it's pretty accurate.
Yeah. So,
I mean, it's almost on the, I mean, it feels on the nose, it feels that way. What's Verona? Isn't that?
It's in Italy.
It's in Italy, right?
Yes. All right. So let's take a quick look and kind of dissect this quatrain.
All right.
Now, the quote or the phrase, "There will be talk of a treacherous man who rules for a short time." Okay, a few things to unpack in that single sentence. A treacherous man, right? Not to get into the pros and cons of Donald Trump, like I said, I'm not going to step on that landmine. But the fact is, talk about impeaching Trump began before he was even president and continued during his term. Impeachable charges against Trump said that he provided Russia classified information, that he colluded with Russia to hijack the 2016 election in his favor. He accepted money or bribes from foreign dignitaries, and he was accused of obstruction of justice a number of times. And these were just a few of the charges levied against him during this impeachment process. There were more. Now, of course, he wasn't impeached, but also Trump is currently looking at charges of treason for inciting an insurrection when Trump supporters violently stormed the U.S. Capitol building in Washington on January 6, 2021. The argument is that during a speech on January 6, Trump encouraged his supporters, all of them already fired up because Trump lost the 2020 election under what they believed was a blatantly stolen election. He encouraged thousands of his supporters to storm the Capitol building and stop the election certification, which would name Joe Biden the next U.S. president, right? And that's exactly what happened. I mean, the certification wasn't stopped. It was paused until things got back under control. But 5 people wound up dying and over 140 people were injured during the attack on the Capitol, all supposedly incited by Trump. So to a lot of people, Trump is guilty of treason, therefore treacherous, just like the quatrain says. The quatrain also calls this man disloyal and volatile. Again, treason is disloyal and it's volatile.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and some would certainly call Trump himself as a person, his personality, volatile also, right? Now, as far as the part of the quatrain that says this man will rule for a short time, Nostradamus doesn't give us an indication to how long a short time is, but Trump's presidency was only 4 years long instead of 8. Could that be considered short?
I'm sure it is for me.
Yeah. I'm sure it was very short as far as Trump and his supporters were concerned, right? There's also the part of the quatrain that mentions this man will quickly rise from low to high estate. Now, I struggled with this part, but if you think about it, what was Trump before he was president? He was an entertainer, for sure. And yeah, he was rich, but he also bankrupted a number of his businesses. He was seen as a womanizer, a philanderer. He was quoted as saying some really nasty things about women, and he kept questionable company. Jeffrey Epstein, anybody?
Right.
Then suddenly, boom, you know, even to his own surprise, I think, Donald Trump won the most powerful seat in the world, the U.S. presidency. Is this the quick rise from low to high estate Nostradamus was talking about? When you look at it as a whole and make Trump the person Nostradamus is talking about in Century 1, Quatrain 12, it does kind of fit, doesn't it? Very strange. No one ever talks about that quatrain. I kind of found it and
so like when you found it, do you usually find like a lot of articles connected to it? Is that the thing? Or a lot of like posts or entries or Facebook or something like that?
Well, for these two on Trump, that's where I had to go out and kind of make a lot of it fit.
No,
I was able to.
For these two, I'm saying usually though, you would find a lot of. Right?
Yeah, lots of articles,
right.
Both scholarly and not. I try to take, commonalities between everything I find, and that's how I get my script. But yeah, strange. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what to make of it.
Anything else on these quatrains for relating to Trump?
That's all I have relating to Trump.
Because you're talking about retrofitting things like that, right? It kind of makes me feel like one of those very nifty tools. I'm not a hardware guy. I'm not like a construction worker of any kind. I don't know the name of it, but there's these like very nifty tools where there are a bunch of like these metal pieces that you put a wrench in, or you put a nut through it or a bolt through it when you're trying to like dislodge it or whatever, and it fits to the shape of the bolt, and no matter what it is, no matter what size it is, right? Like these metal things, and it's just gonna.
I have one of those. Yes.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's meant to for any. I mean, as long as it can fit that pattern. I mean, not the pattern. As long as the size of the plate is within that size, you can make any size of anything like hard in there, and you can like twist it and then unscrew whatever you want.
Absolutely. Yep, and it works too.
And that's prophecy kind of feels like that, where it's like it's self something prophecy. Remember what's that term?
So like self-fulfilling.
Thank you. Self-fulfilling prophecy, almost like that, but it's not quite like that. It's more like when you take your daily or your weekly or maybe your chart, your horoscope chart, your daily horoscopes, right? And you read it, and you read your daily one, and you read your monthly one, and it fits and it feels like it fits you because they're really written for everyone, and they're written for everyone who's born, let's say, within the horoscope guide, right? That the dates that you're in.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like how that feels personal to a person, how it can feel personal to you, and like, oh my God, that's so me. That's exactly like, that's fucking accurate. And you're reading it off a newspaper column or whatever. Kids, ask your parents what a newspaper is. And then to like someone like me, maybe, or someone else, right? They'll be like, no, it's pretty general, but you can make it fit to where it suits your personality, where it benefits you. Cause you also, you'll kind of you want to believe it, that your horoscope that you're reading is accurate and it's doing something, and that there's something going on in the world, right? That's above you that can tell you you're doing good in this thing, or you're doing bad in this thing. You should fix this, or you should be more into this. This feels like that. It feels like you did like a very good, like maybe you did a very good, I don't know, for real, very good version of how you said, like making it fit to by our, I mean American, our, last president.
Yeah.
Making it fit to, because it's recent, like recency bias a little bit, confirmation bias too a little bit, and it looks like it's too good to be true, like it's too easy now to fit it because you're thinking that way exclusively. It does feel a little like that, and I don't know how much of it is true or not, but it feels like a horoscope thing.
It does. It does. And during our break, I like how you mentioned, when people read their horoscope, then they'll go out and look for the signs, and damn it, they find them, right? Therefore, horoscope was right.
Right. You start looking for right, exactly. Like look for the color red today, and then you notice more red.
Yeah.
That's how it works, right? When you need to buy a new mattress, all of a sudden you notice all the mattress stores. Yeah, it feels just like that. I'm not saying it's true, just saying it feels that way. Very interesting, though, that you got these lesser known prophecies of Nostradamus, like to inform on very recent events. That's cool.
Thanks. Thank you.
I like that.
Well, this next event isn't recent, but it is about another U.S. presidential prophecy made by Nostradamus in 16th century France. Only this time it concerns 1960s America. Yes, it's one of my favorite topics, the assassination of U.S. President John F. Kennedy on November 22nd, 1963. Now, I've been to Dealey Plaza over in Dallas where the assassination happened. I've stood on the exact spot where Kennedy was shot on Elm Street in front of the Texas School Book Depository.
Nice.
I've stood on and peered down onto Elm Street from the infamous grassy knoll where supposedly another Kennedy assassin was located during the shooting. And I've even looked out onto Elm Street from the actual Texas School Book Depository's 6th floor window, from which Kennedy was supposedly shot by Lee Harvey Oswald back in 1963. So this is a massive conspiracy, right? Who shot President Kennedy and why? Was it the CIA, the American government, the outfit? Was it foreign players? Was it a combination of all the above? Was it a lone wolf, Lee Harvey Oswald? How many shooters were there? Who's the umbrella man? The magic bullet theory. Back and to the left. Back and to the left. Right. Did someone actually fire from the grassy knoll? How many shots were there, really? Just way too much to get into in a single podcast episode. And the Kennedy assassination is something I'd like to cover one day. But let's take a look at what Nostradamus had to say about it all. Now, this is Century 1, Quatrain 26. Quote, "The ancient work will be accomplished, and from the roof, evil ruin will fall onto the great man. Being dead, they will accuse an innocent of the deed, the guilty one hidden in the misty woods." End quote.
Wow.
Yes. Now, there's another interpretation, or more like translation of this quatrain, which reads, quote, "The ancient task will be completed from on high. Evil will fall on the great man. A dead innocent will be accused of the deed. The guilty one will remain in the mist, end quote. A lot of similarities between these two interpretations of Century 1, Quatrain 26. Both contain the reference to an ancient task some long-standing need or obligation to strike down, in this case from up high or from a roof, a great man. Both translations contain reference to a dead innocent or a dead scapegoat, maybe you could think of it. And both contain a reference to a shadowy something when the quatrain refers to the misty woods or just the mist, as in the guilty one will remain in the mist. In other words, hidden from the public and hidden from persecution or prosecution, I should say,
Right.
or the law, right? So clearly, if this is actually referring to Kennedy, striking down from on high or from the roof is a direct reference to the gunshot from the Texas School Book Depository's sixth floor window that struck the great man down. And Kennedy was seen as the American president that would bring hope and change to our country. It's really hard to explain or put into words the positive feelings America had towards Kennedy. They were enthralled with them. He was to be an inspiration for Americans. And most people truly believed Kennedy could actually put his positive messages into action, and that his actions could affect change. This was something never really felt before by Americans, especially coming off Richard Nixon's presidency, right? So to say that Kennedy was seen as great, the great man struck down, I'd say that's an understatement. Now, so far, I'd say this quatrain is checking out. Now, how about the dead innocent? That phrase, dead innocent. Both quatrains refer to this person, right? Now, this person, of course, is Lee Harvey Oswald. Now, obviously, there are people out there in both camps that will argue to the death that Oswald was the lone shooter and that he wasn't. He was actually a fall guy, a patsy, right? I think overall it's safe to say that most quote-unquote experts agree that it was, in fact, Oswald. But according to Nostradamus, it wasn't. Oswald was innocent because our boy Nostradamus says that the dead innocent will be accused. And what happened to Lee Harvey Oswald? He too was assassinated on live TV.
On live TV. Yeah, on live TV.
Yeah. Just 2 days after Kennedy was shot by another shadowy character named Jack Ruby in the basement of the Dallas police headquarters. Just unbelievable. And Oswald, now dead, killed, will be forever known as the man that killed Kennedy, even if he was actually innocent. Mm-hmm. And finally, we get this reference to the mist or the misty woods. I think this is a direct reference, which goes hand in hand with the ancient task phrase or the ancient work phrase, also mentioned in the quatrain, describing the cabal or the shadow government or whatever you want to call it, the ones really controlling things, the ones who will go to great lengths to maintain and protect their misty power structure. Kennedy was seen as a threat to this secret power structure, so they killed him for it. And keep in mind, throughout history, as far back as you want to go, when great men are in power, men who could actually change things, there are always those who want to destroy that man. And Kennedy was no different.
Right.
So to recap this quatrain, a great man, JFK, will be struck down from on high, shot from the sixth floor of the Texas School Book Depository, by the mist or the shadow government or cabal, and the one accused is actually innocent and will be killed. Lee Harvey Oswald being murdered by Jack Ruby, right? And this is all part of some ancient work or secret organization that will do anything to maintain their diabolical power and influence. I know it sounds crazy, but what do you think? Did Nostradamus predict the assassination of John F. Kennedy? I think there's really something to this quatrain.
I think there's something to it too. I think it's very accurate. Well, not very, very accurate, but you know what I mean? It seems to really fit, you know, and it's also like it happens to be also a big topic for me. So like my introduction to conspiracy theories is the JFK assassination.
I think it is for most people.
Right? I think it is for most people, true. And maybe you and I are more special because a lot of the conspiracy theories came up in the 80s, 90s. I mean, it came back in the 60s too, but the way it really sparked for a lot of people, this is before internet, guys, you know, it made sense that it was JFK. It's either JFK or a precious few others. There wasn't a whole lot of conspiracies for people to pick through, right, to be their starter. But JFK was my starter. So that, yeah, it really fits. It seems like it fits for me, you know?
Yeah, and there's not a lot of stretching that has to be done. Not a lot of
Right.
molding to fit. I
You
mean,
don't
it's
have to explain yourself like, oh, this could mean that. No, it's pretty obvious, bro. You could just say that to someone even off the street and they'll be like, yeah, that does sound like the JFK thing.
yeah, just amazing. From 16th century France. I don't know, man. I don't know. Listeners, what do you think? Okay, so let's get off of presidents and switch gears here a bit and talk about something that's on everyone's mind, the coronavirus. And guess what? Many people claim that Nostradamus actually predicted the coronavirus pandemic.
This is what people spent time on when they were quarantined. They're like, are there prophecies on this? It's gotta be something.
Could I have known this was coming? Could someone have warned me? And actually, maybe they could have. Now, this quatrain is so eerily accurate, it literally gives me chills. Okay. Century 2, quatrain 65, quote, in the feeble lists, great calamity through America and Lombardy, the fire in the ship, plague in captivity, Mercury in Sagittarius, Saturn warning, end quote. Okay, now let me explain. Obviously, we could understand the phrase plague and captivity and great calamity. The plague, of course, is the coronavirus, and captivity is the worldwide lockdown we all experienced. Some places are still experiencing. The shelter in place, the closing of businesses, staying away from family and friends, not being able to go to work. It was literally like we were all living in captivity. And the calamity? Just stop and think about what the lockdowns did to our economy, not only here in the United States, but globally. No argument about it. The lockdown was calamitous to our economy. The jobless rate, people losing their homes, the unemployment claims, businesses that never recovered. Calamity is an understatement. Now, how about the phrase, the feeble lists? Could this phrase be referring to the lists of the sick and those who died from the coronavirus?
Right.
And it's feeble because we don't really have an accurate number. Think about it. When adding up the coronavirus death toll, it's been said that the numbers were inflated, deflated, underreported, overreported. No one died from the flu last year, right? Everyone died from coronavirus. The CDC says one thing, the news says another, and social media says something completely different. No one knows how many truly died from COVID. The information is weak at best or feeble. It's creepy. The quatrain also mentions America and Lombardy. Lombardy's in Italy. And America, Italy, and Spain were some of the hardest hit countries when COVID first broke. Nostradamus said that Mercury entered Sagittarius in this quatrain. And believe it or not, that happened in December 2019, right when the very first cases of coronavirus were popping up.
You're kidding.
No. And he also mentioned, this is nuts. He also mentions Saturn warning. He specifically mentions something happening with Saturn. And Saturn moved into Aquarius on March 21st, 2020, right when New York City was going into COVID lockdown. This is just amazing. You could look it up.
Yeah, that's pretty eerie, actually.
Okay, now finally, Nostradamus in this quatrain mentions fire in a ship. Do you remember all those cruise ships that were stuck in the ocean because people on board were infected with COVID and they weren't allowed to dock and disembark, some for weeks? Yeah, I can definitely see how this refers to fire in a ship, can't you?
Yes.
So, looks like he predicted coronavirus. I don't know.
I mean, a virus is a very worldwide event, right? That makes I always like it when I mentioned this in the last episode, how a lot of people can, much like I said earlier today already about the retrofitting, right? Making things fit to your dialogue, your thought, your confirmation bias. I also mentioned last episode how you can make this work with a lot of the events of countries, or like maybe even larger than that, continents, right? Or several countries worth of events.
Yeah,
you can make them fit to any of that if you're from there. Like if I was from New Zealand, suddenly I can make this fit that. You can make this fit to that president, right? You can make this fit to that. Maybe not the assassination unless you had an assassination in your past and your country. That's where you get more specific, right? Or less specific, but whatever. The point is that, yeah, I mean, it really feels like it makes sense. But when I see a world event like the coronavirus being possibly referenced to, it's insane. And it also reminds me of the other pandemic that happened, the worldwide pandemic. I mean, that happened in 1904 or 1, whatever it was. The H1N1 virus.
The Spanish flu.
Right, I think it is Spanish flu. Yes, yeah, because we did a whole show on it. Did we do a 2-parter?
That was a 1-parter.
That was 1-parter. Okay, my bad. I thought
listeners, go back and check out Pandemics. It was called.
Yes, that's right. We did that in honor of, well, not in honor because we don't want to honor Corona, but you know what I mean. We did it because of that, and it reminds me of that. And this guy did. I mean, after his death, Nostradamus' death, there was at least those 2 pandemics. There's more. There's been more.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if I was reading this 1901 or whatever, would I be saying something similar here about what you're saying about the coronavirus? And I wonder how much of it will fit, how much of it will feel like it fits. Interesting thought process. Obviously, no way we can prove it because we can't time travel, but interesting nonetheless. I just want to put that out there. If that, because I also like living in between both the worlds of being completely skeptical about this whole prophecy business and being totally into it. And the only thing that's stopping me personally from knowing this information is having the same knowledge this guy had and reading the stars or the charts the same way he did. Because that seems like all things you can learn. He was special because he was first in recorded history, I should say, the first guy in recorded history to do it this way. But they're all stuff they're just based on knowledge and skills. You can learn those things.
That's right.
It's interesting stuff. Very cool.
You're right. Reading the stars, understanding history and patterns. That's
right. If sailors could fucking do it, you can do it too.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
I don't know if I'm going to take the time to learn. I love our listeners.
It does look hard, and it doesn't look like my tea, like my particular brand of tea, but still.
Yeah, it would be cool. It would be cool to see if we could come up with a prophecy somehow and see if it comes true.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe for a Patreon bonus.
That's a lot of learning for one bonus. That's a lot of learning.
When we hit our 10,000th patron, that's when I'll do it.
Okay. No, yeah, done. Done.
No, okay, so let's pop back into history on this next one. How about, did Nostradamus predict the nuclear bombs that dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Or I should say, did Nostradamus predict that event, right?
Oh, okay.
Now, century 2, quatrain 6, quote, near the gates and within 2 cities, there will be 2 scourges, the like which was never seen, famine within plague, people put out by steel, crying to the great immortal God for relief, end quote. Here, the 2 cities could be referring to, of course, the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, both of which were absolutely decimated by nuclear bombs dropped by the United States at the end of World War II. Mm-hmm. The word scourge is mentioned, as in 2 scourges, the likes of which was never seen. And the definition of scourge, in case you don't know, is a person or thing that causes great suffering. In this case, the 2 nuclear bombs are the scourges that cause suffering, the likes of which had never been seen before on our planet.
I mean, yeah, that's a big deal. Nuclear bombs were brand new back then. It was never seen before. I mean, still hasn't. Where the only time it's detonated since that point, and before that, it was on testing, right?
Right. Yeah, actually used.
Right.
First time.
I mean, thankfully.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd say that so far this quatrain is making sense. Now, Nostradamus mentions plague and famine in this quatrain. Could the plague he's referring to be the long-lasting effects on the Japanese people from radiation poisoning? And could famine be referring to crops, animals, and food supply destroyed by the bomb drops? Makes sense. And finally, Nostradamus mentions people put out by steel. People put out by steel. Many believe this phrase is a reference to the U.S. airplanes on which the nuclear bombs were carried and from which the bombs were dropped onto Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And I don't know, what do you guys think? Is this quatrain talking about the absolutely devastating end to World War II? The end that caused people to cry out to the great immortal God for relief? Let us know. Contact at chicagoghostpodcast.com.
Yeah.
What do you think, Oscar? Pretty accurate?
It feels pretty accurate to me.
It's another one, right? It's another
It really
one.
does. Yeah. I mean, I can't help it. It just does. And it speaks more to this guy's skill, right? I guess, I mean, prophecies are so weird.
Yeah.
I never think of prophecies until we're talking about it. Like it's never an avenue to research for me. Like I never, either because I dismiss it right away because I don't take them seriously, or I really do, but I don't know. It's just so alien to me. Like, how does someone prophesize something? Like, how do you it just seems insane.
How do you get in that space to be able to do this? Like, it's nuts.
Right. There's a reason why it was an elective in Harry Potter or in Hogwarts to go into prophecies and stuff because
That's right.
It's too weird. Like it can't be for everyone. It can't be the math or the science of the Magic Kingdom. It has to be like a side elective, like either you have it or you don't.
That's awesome. Do you remember who the teacher was?
Oh, Trelawney.
Was it Trelawney?
I believe so.
Nice. Oh, that's great that you were able to pull that.
It's been a while. I might have got that wrong. But
oh, we're gonna get hate mail now.
No. I don't see how.
But you're right. I mean, very interesting. I think I was always into Nostradamus, but overall, reading your horoscope and things like that, I just dismissed it myself. But there's some things here that really, really kind of make me a believer to a point.
Yeah, I wonder how much. So I mean, not to step on your toes for the future. Do you have any other ones?
Kind of. I'm wrapping up here.
Okay, then I'll wait a little bit.
Okay, so I wanted to end the show talking about quatrains that seem to strongly reference the September 11th, 2001 terrorist attacks on the World Trade Centers. It was just about 10 years after the attacks that these rumors started circulating online saying that the attacks could have been prevented, or at least people could have been warned about the attacks because 9/11 had been clearly predicted by Nostradamus centuries ago. And people were fucking pissed about this. Like some great governing body knew this was coming because of the quatrain and failed to, alert the public, and therefore killed, all these lives, could have saved all these lives.
I mean,
they were.
Okay.
Yeah. And I remember reading this stuff online back then and being just amazed, right? And I specifically remembered two quatrains that were being quoted at the time as proof that Nostradamus saw the attacks from his darkened room way back in the 16th century France, right? Now, those quatrains said, quote, "Two steel birds will fall from the sky on the metropolis. The sky will burn at 45 degrees latitude. Fire approaches the great new city. Immediately, a huge scattered flame leaps up. Within months, rivers will flow with blood. The undead will roam the earth for little time." End quote. Now, the second quatrain that supposedly predicted 9/11 read like this, quote, "In the city of God, there will be a great thunder. Two brothers torn apart by chaos while the fortress endures. The great leader will succumb. The third big war will begin when the big city is burning." End quote. Now, it seems these two quatrains have it all. Two steel birds falling onto the metropolis. Those are the planes that crashed into the World Trade Center.
Mm-hmm.
And the metropolis, of course, is New York City. The sky will burn at 45 degrees latitude. which kind of further confirms the metropolis is New York, because New York is actually at 40 degrees latitude, just 5 degrees off from the prediction. Nostradamus was close, and we should give him some leeway, right? The metropolis is also called the New City, yet again a reference to New York City. And we have mention of great thunder, which are the sounds of the planes screaming over Manhattan moments before they hit the trade centers. And of course, the resulting explosions causing flames to leap up, to quote the quatrain, flames to leap up. And notice the reference that I mentioned, the two brothers being torn apart.
Mhm.
The two brothers being torn apart, of course, are the Twin Towers, the two trade center buildings. And the third war Nostradamus mentions, that's the War on Terror. Seems so uncannily accurate, doesn't it? The only problem here is that both quatrains are essentially made up. These two quatrains, as they are written, which supposedly predict 9/11 attacks, cannot be found in any of Nostradamus's actual quatrains. They're actually more like hybrids. They're part real quatrain, rounded out with flights of fancy, purposely crafted to sound as if they're predicting 9/11. The quatrains that were being circulated 10 years after the attacks, the ones I just read, they really came from a Canadian website. And they were part of an essay explaining how prophecy can be used to fool people. The 9/11 quatrains were basically invented to prove a point. But then the quatrains escaped, made their way onto, to mass people online, and they suddenly became fact, and people believed it. And I was certainly one of those people fooled to believe that Nostradamus made specific predictions about this horrible event in our history. So even though I couldn't blow listeners away with real Nostradamus predictions made about 9/11, I kind of thought the story behind the 9/11 quatrains that were circulating was rather interesting, and that I was one of the people who fell for it hook, line, and sinker back then. So I didn't get the ending to this episode that I hoped for, but I think it still led to a somewhat interesting story, especially because I was among the masses who believed it.
All right. Yeah, it's again, so the thing I was going to say earlier, first of all, I'm still thinking about the 9/11 thing. It's going into my head. Anyway, the thing I was thinking earlier, and it could apply to the 9/11 prophecies regarding Nostradamus, is that I wonder if there is it feels like this prophecies, these quatrains, and maybe other prophets of little renown, right? Can be included into this. I wonder what makes them look crazy, because I think there is because it seems like prophets and prophecies and conspiracy theories, right, are dangerously close to each other. And I think what actually combines them is the notion that they're all crazy and lies until they're not. Right. And then they become conspiracy theories proven actually correct, as opposed to saying, oh, that's a conspiracy theory, like an old wives' tale. It's not true. And I wonder what happened between France and what year was it? What century?
When he wrote this?
Yeah.
So he wrote in 1555, so the 16th
century, right?
Yes.
So from the 16th century on, somewhere in there, especially in the 20th century, at some point, either through a conspiracy theory, like in a conspiracy type way, like on purpose, it was prophets and prophecies were suddenly made to look like crazy people talk. And we've seen that in movies and depictions in cartoons. We've seen them the fact that it's movies, TV shows, books, and then cartoons means that it covers everyone from all ages, right? And I've seen it all, and I know I'm positive I've seen a cartoon regarding this. And I wonder if there's a conspiracy theory that is meant to make them look like they're crazy and not real.
just to discredit them and get people
Right.
to ignore prophecy.
Right.
And I wonder to what end. I don't know. It's an interesting thought.
Yeah, I only say that because, like, you were talking about the 9/11 thing. And I'm not saying it's 100%. I mean, it does feel right, like I said earlier. But if it is right, or if it's a little bit right, something like the JFK one, something like the 9/11 one, I wonder if there is a group, not a group like that. It makes it sound like it's like the Laurel Canyon thing, right, or whatever. But no, it's not. Or the what's that? Bohemian Grove. Kind of sounds like it's Bohemian Grove. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying something like that, like an institution, let's say, or a few institutions, governments, or whatever. What if they know this and then they discredit it? Because once you read a prophecy, and if you stop it, then it was never a prophecy. Like, isn't it supposed to come true? And are they letting it? And if they're letting it, then because, like, not letting it could lead to actual disaster, like maybe capital D disaster in ways we don't understand, or like, because, like, if it doesn't happen, then the guy is lying. Then the guy got the prophecy wrong. But if we only got it wrong because we stopped it because we read his prophecy, I don't, like, it seems like something fishy is going on here. Like, something weird has happened. I can't put my finger on it. I'm trying to figure it out as I talk to you all about it. But, like, I don't know. I don't know how to think. It seems like someone or some things out there in the past has tried to make us think that prophets and prophecies are crazy people talk. I think that's one thing. And then because somewhere along the way, we just did that. We just started doing that. Considering how religious we are in general, especially more so back then, I know that Nostradamus had difficulties with that. But yeah, I don't know. Interesting. And
it is. And there goes your camera. See, you talk about discrediting prophecy, and your whole camera system just collapsed.
Yep. Just in time.
They're out there, man. They're listening.
They are, those bastards. Sorry. Yeah, anyway, I don't know what you think about that. And there's no real answer necessarily. I was just saying that it feels like a conspiracy is happening about, like, making us, like, not put too much effort into prophecies. What if many people out there are having this ability? Maybe a lot of them have learned what Nostradamus learned, how to read this stuff. I mean, I know there's a lot more interest out there for star charts and shit like that. How is that? And then there's nobody that can read the same stuff he did. How is that possible? No way, right? I don't know.
I don't know either. It seems like an infinite loop there. Which came first? It's interesting.
Yeah,
it really is. I mean, I hope this was a good end to our little Nostradamus series here. As I said, didn't end the way I originally planned it to, but I thought it was interesting nonetheless.
How was your original look?
Well, I just really wanted to blow people away with quatrains about 9/11 and how accurate they were.
Yeah,
but it wasn't real.
Yeah.
The steel birds and the brothers, being the towers and the birds.
I think we also, that's another thing, we want to make it real, right? We really wanted to.
I did. Yeah.
No, I'm saying us as humans, we kind of want to make stuff like this kind of feel real, right? Like, we want to, like, egg it on, make it fit better. It's like, when you see a lot of those detective crime stories, right, involving a mystery or some sort, and the detective is making the evidence fit to where he wants it to. Like, if he hates this guy, or he thinks this guy did it, suddenly the evidence kind of points to him, even though it clearly doesn't. This is just movie talk, obviously, but same. You can apply it to this.
You can, yeah, I'd say so. Like I did with Trump.
Yeah, exactly. No, I like this theory. I never would have. It's a good topic because, again, like the Harry Potter thing, I never would have thought of it as a topic for us to cover here.
No.
It's just so unheard of it's just not in my textbook. Oh, it's not my keywords, I never think about prophecy,
Well, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I like it a lot. Yeah.
Good. Maybe we'll revisit it sometime in the future. Dig up some more quatrains, see if they fit to events that are unfolding.
Yeah.
Well,
all right.
If that's it, that's all I got.
That's all I got too. Yeah,
All
nothing
right.
else.
Well, then, Oscar, please take us home.
Will do. Very nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw this movie. You might like. I don't know if you'll love it, but it's on Shudder.
Oh, what is it?
Called Let's Scare Julie.
Let's Scare Julie.
Uh-huh.
Let me see. I'm going to text that to Katie so you have it, because we've been flipping through Shudder. What did we watch? We watched Within. I think that was on Amazon. Terrible.
Was it terrible?
Yeah, it was with Starlight from The Boys.
Oh, okay. Sure. I never heard of Within, so I don't know much about it.
I'm texting Katie that you suggest a movie on Shudder.
Well, it's very short. I mean, not very short. It's like 90 minutes, barely 90 minutes. It's a very short movie. It's a very fast movie anyway, I think. Here's the thing is I put it on as background originally. I was playing with the girls, with the gliders. And I wanted to see something new and horror. So there I go. And I put it on and I was like, I really wasn't paying attention to it because it starts off kind of like it's just a bunch of teenagers, like teenage girls, like a little older than Talia, like, you know, like maybe freshman high school, right? Something like that. And they're just talking and they're like regular today's girls. So they're talking and they're Instagramming and they're on their phones a lot, right? And they're talking about bullshit. And they're all like hiding from their drunk ass dad who's passed out on the couch and he can't know that they're there, you know, because he doesn't want sleepovers, you know, shit like that. And then they get into somehow after a while, I started paying attention. I actually went back and replayed it because I was like, oh, maybe I missed something. I actually got into it. I found myself getting into it after like 20 minutes because I was like, I'm like, this whole conversation like morphed into this talking about the house across the street, you know, like seriously, right? Like he talks about how her father, there was some accident involving her father across the street and that how the lady that used to live there never came out, was like almost like maybe agoraphobic, I don't know what, but she like never came out. And a lot of like, you know, folklore came up around the house across the street before the lady died. And this new family has moved in since. And they have a little girl, not a little girl, but like a girl their age. And her name is Julie. She's new. And she wears like what they think is like a turban or something. They don't know if she's from a different country. And they wanted to mess with her. They start talking about, they get themselves hyped up to prank her. Yeah. And so, and this is when you realize that the camera, and I don't know if this is true, because again, I wasn't super paying attention to the camera until like halfway through the movie. I realized that the camera might be one long shot movie.
Really?
It might be. It feels like it is for sure. I don't know if it's actually for real, but it might be one long take or made to look like one long take. And it follows one girl in particular who's had like a little bit of history. You find out later. And anyway, she's there by herself and she doesn't want to go. She doesn't want to go and scare this girl or whatever. But all the other 5 other girls go. And then what happens between like who comes back and who doesn't and what they're saying about what happened across the street. It's like really intense and fascinating and like kind of weird and kind of creepy. Okay. And it goes from there and I'll stop there. But like,
don't, we'll probably watch it tonight.
I ended up liking it. I was like, oh my, it's kind of a creepy pasta movie. It's kind of cool. I like
nice. Yeah. We're always looking for shit like that, man.
Yeah.
Nice. We tried to watch the movie Mortal. Have you seen Mortal?
Mortal? No.
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime. It's with that kid from Hereditary, the kid who has the mole. He was the brother in Hereditary. black hair.
Yes. I remember.
Okay,
him, yeah.
could you picture? Yeah, so he's the main character, and he's supposed to be a descendant of Thor, and wacky things happen, and I fucking fell asleep. But apparently, I fell asleep right at the crux of the movie, and I missed the whole point. So I might try that one again. It was decent, I guess. But
That's funny. Is it a YA kind of thing?
what's that?
I mean, not YA, young adult.
No, I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
I wouldn't say so. It's a slow burn for sure. And I think that's why I was losing interest and ultimately fell asleep at the most important part. But it does follow, the mythology of lore pretty closely, pretty accurately. I won't ruin it. If you're ever bored, something to check out.
Yeah, I hear you. I remember the one thing that was really impressed with the movie is that it was able to do this cool kind of horror tension stuff and suspense with the story without, because you could tell it's an indie movie. Like the whole movie takes place in one house or two houses actually, but like it's really basic and they keep it very nice and surprisingly no effects needed, not much effects anyway.
Oh, I love that.
It's just great. Really cool indie stuff. Yeah, like they worked it for like I don't know how much it cost, but it must have cost like nothing to make that movie.
Wow,
like nothing, maybe like 10 G's as opposed to millions. Yeah.
We could do something like that.
Totally.
Now, did you go out and see Quiet Place 2 yet, or Feet and Ears?
Oh no, haven't seen it yet. I will see it, but I'll wait for it. Yeah, like, I don't know if I'm in a theater at that one.
I liked the first one. I did.
Yeah, no, I liked it too. I didn't love it, but I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked the ending too. I like the way he sacrificed himself. That was kind of cool. I like that. I'm curious about part 2 for sure, but like not that anticipating for it like the other people are.
Yeah. We went because Talia really wanted to see it. So I'm like, all right, yeah, we could go check that out.
I wasn't.
I mean, I don't know. They're trying to make more money off of this cool concept from the first one. And to me, it didn't work too well,
Oh, okay. All right.
But
I'll temper my expectations. I mean, I don't have much expectations. I'll temper them. Was it written by the dude, John Krasinski, whatever?
Yes, he was. There were like, I want to say 3 writers. He was definitely involved.
Got it. Yeah, because I know he wrote or directed or both on the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know he did something like that. More than just acting.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool because it does pick up pretty much immediately after the first one ends. There's a little intro to the second movie that shows you in a roundabout way where these things came from.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then it just boom picks right up from where the last one left off. And
yeah, I heard this really good from Chicago critic, right, a movie critic who loves horror and stuff, and she said something very interesting, very like insightful about horror movies, and or especially like mystery movies, or movies with a lot of lore. She talked about this about John Wick primarily, but she also mentioned horror movies and how the less we know about the mystery that makes the movie an action movie or horror movie, the more interested we are in it, the more we like that movie. But because we want to know the answers. But when we get the answers in the sequels is when we less like the movie.
Oh.
And it's true. I mean, she was talking again about John Wick. I'm like, the mystery of how the criminal underground worked was so cool, but we didn't know how it all worked. We just knew like they have a hotel now. They have they have their own currency, but then none of it's explained. And then in part 2, part 3, it is explained, but she's right in the sense that it makes the movie less interesting. We actually don't want to know the answer,
Wow, that is a, because I find myself in movies that are mysterious like that. Yeah, I want to fucking know. Tell me, man. Give me the backstory. But then you're right. I mean, I'll bet you if I go back and I think about sequels and prequels or whatever that give those answers,
and the answers almost always ruin it. Because
I'm curious if I would think that way.
Yeah, and then you mentioned Hereditary. It applies to Hereditary because there's that mysterious cult that's always in the background because it involves the dead mother.
Yes,
right, it involves the dead mother and it involves the dead mother's friends, and they're in the movie, but they're like very backgroundy, right? It's really about the family dealing with it, and they're being manipulated by the cult, and it's all mysterious, and you can extrapolate a lot, but you don't know for sure. And again, that's what makes part of the movie a little more suspenseful and extra creepy, extra scary, not actually knowing for real.
That's a good point.
You know? And it was like, it's a good point. And like, yeah, I probably wouldn't, as much as I would want to know, like a sequel or prequel, right, of what's going on with this cult, I think that'll ruin the movie. Or it'll ruin the thing.
The mystique.
Mm-hmm. The mystique of it, yeah.
That's interesting. I want to see that. I really enjoyed that movie. I like Hereditary a lot. I want to watch it again with that in mind.
Yeah, I've been thinking of rewatching it. It's been a couple of years. I think I'm ready to see it again.
Yeah,
it's a fun movie.
I want to see that one again, and I want to see Midsommar again.
Yes, just do a double feature. We should. Oh, I mean, you thinking the same thing? I don't know. We should
watch party.
Yeah, watch party. We should just watch party, Hereditary, and Midsommar.
Dude. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I think so.
So how are you, man? How did your recording come out last night?
It didn't go, actually. It didn't happen. After we watched the movie, I had to pick up Lexi. I told her, like, hey, you're going to have to get a ride back because I'm going to be with Roth and then recording right after, and I don't know what's going on. And I told her most likely I can't do it. I did end up doing it because Uber, for some reason, at 9 p.m. yesterday was like $50.
Holy shit.
Which is about like double than usual for her.
Yeah.
So I'm like, fine, but you're gonna have to wait a bit. And then I got there a little late, and by the time I got home, Roth fell asleep, just like you. And I'm telling you, all you fathers fucking sleep right away. So like, and he just fell asleep. I'm recording with him right after this.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
What movie were you guys, or what do you have to rewatch?
Not rewatch. We saw. We have to do 2 reviews. We did have the show already earlier in the week, so we have to do Bowfinger.
I remember that.
Yeah, Bowfinger. And then the new Conjuring movie, which is what we saw last night.
Did you like it?
I liked it. I didn't love it. Oh, press something.
I didn't love it. I didn't love it either.
Yeah, I didn't love it because well, the craft, it wasn't quite the same. Like you could definitely tell, like the scenes in the first 2, especially the first one, were way more suspenseful. I think it did a lot more to be more suspenseful.
Yeah.
You know, I would say that this third one's definitely the worst out of the 3, but that's like saying, The Godfather 3 is the worst out of the 3. Yeah, it is noticeably different than the other 2, but like they're still good movies.
Yeah. In the Godfather's case, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. No Conjuring frame is better than any one Godfather or anything, but like, you know what I mean.
True. Yeah, I wanted to know more about the woman. I wanted to know more about this cult. What was it, the cult of the Ram or whatever? I looked
that up,
more.
by the way. It's not based on anything. It's based on the world of The Conjuring.
Oh, so that cult isn't real?
Yeah, it's based on some cults that I think it was mentioned in the Annabelle movies, which are prequels, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Sequels. Based on my brief Googling of it. It's not like based on anything. There's no cult named that. At least not that it's online.
I see.
Right. So, I mean, I don't know for real. But.
Well, I did pull up the little boy's name, and I pulled up the teenager or the young guy's name, the 2 who were possessed. I'm wondering if that could be a show one day. I haven't researched them yet, but they're based off true cases. So I'm wondering if that'll be.
Oh, right. You mean the actual Warren case? You thinking about it? Got it. That makes sense. Yeah.
So I have those bookmarked. I'll research them at some point.
Yeah, maybe we could do a double feature because I have one. I haven't done anything with it, but I do have a Warren case that I've been wanting to do. I forgot the name of it. I write everything down or screenshot everything, so I'd have to go back and look where it was and stuff. But I always wanted to do a Warren case, but I'd rather do one that isn't in the movies. And as far as I can tell, none of these movies have done it. So, like, thank God.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, because if you remember, we could, well, if we do a Warren case, we could harken back to that 966 Lindley Street we did, because we talked about them pretty heavily in that episode.
That's true.
But
my main question to you is that what's going on there that you can't do this in your office? Not that you have to. I'm just asking.
It's just, I mean, noon o'clock, kids are up, doors are opening.
Nice.
Yeah, doors are opening and closing, the alarms, beeping every time the door,
got it.
hard for them to be quiet. So
yeah, okay. If I figured that was the answer, I was just asking. I'm like, that makes sense.
today. I'm like, you guys got the whole downstairs for a few hours. Go crazy. Just do not come upstairs and yell or slam doors, flush toilets. You got everything downstairs.
Right.
And,
Now let's see how far.
Right. Yeah. They grudgingly, Katie was cool, of course, but the kids grudgingly agreed.
Why? Well, I guess they want to go into the rooms, I guess, their own rooms.
Yeah. Talia's like, well, what am I going to do? I mean, you have fucking outside, go swim, go run around the block. I don't give a shit.
Don't give a shit. Go do drugs. Just don't go on the second floor.
You're 13. Figure it out.
Yeah.
No,
yeah,
that's
right.
funny.
13. You can start. Alcoholism starts early.
Absolutely.